जिंदगी कठिन है, हम पूरे दिन बीड़ी लेते हैं और मर जाते हैं. इससे बढ़िया एंजॉय कीजिए, टॉर्सो नेकेड बैठिए और खूबसूरत जिन एंड टॉनिक पीजिए. What is up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of Dostcast. मेरा नाम है विनम्र कसाना. If you are new to this podcast, please stay around because we release new episodes every Tuesday and Friday at 12 p.m. Indian Standard Time. अगर आप इस podcast को audio platform से सुन रहे हैं, make sure you give us 5 stars because we're the best in Bharat. And today's guest, rightfully so, is Aneesh Bhasin, Co-Founder of Svami Drinks. इस podcast के अंदर we talked about all things gin, tonic, alcohol, cigars, bars, audio, biohacking, सारी वो नीश चीज़ें जो लोग बोलते हैं ना यार shit, that sounds very cool. I wonder where you got that watch or that fancy ass cocktail recipe from. ये सारी बड़ी बड़ी बातें हमारे को अनीश से करने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ. And you can geek out as well, just like I did in this conversation. The episode with Aneesh Bhasin of Svami Drinks begins in 3, 2, 1. While you open this elaborate wine, इसका नाम क्या है? What is it called?
So, this wine is from this region near Verona called Valpolicella. I've been lucky enough to be there twice now. So,
Okay.
it's a classic wine from there. So, in Italy, usually you never talk about grapes, you talk about the region.
Why is that?
So, for example, Valpolicella, this wine says Valpolicella Classico. It can only be called that if a certain grapes are used for this wine.
Okay.
So if they use some other grapes, they can't call it Valpolicella.
Legally?
Yeah, legally. Yeah.
Achha, I had no idea Italy is so big on wines.
Same with France though. But Italy, like, they have this whole thing called DOC, so you have to follow those rules to get this classification. It's good.
Well, it's simpler in India. It just says for sale in Maharashtra only.
India में कुछ भी करते हैं यार. There's no rules, right? That's how a lot of our whiskey is just molasses-based alcohol with flavors because there's no
Sugary
rule.
alcohol with flavors. Yeah.
Molasses-based alcohol, like a lot of our rum.
Here, you want the glass?
Yeah, a lot of our whiskey is actually rum by classification. But India में कोई rules नहीं है तो कुछ भी लिख दो उस पे.
Okay. So आज हम देखने वाले हैं इस wine की pouring. मैं बहुत excited हूँ because we can hear it from him. Like how do we? इसमें क्या? Do I shake it?
Yeah, we will swirl it.
ठीक है. सही.
I'll keep this here.
Yeah. In this prison cell of a setup.
पहले
Cheers.
wine से शुरू करें. Cheers.
Cheers. तो nothing, no swirling.
Lots of swirling.
क्या होता है swirling करने से?
So air आती है glass में.
हाँ.
Wine is getting aerated. As
Yeah.
it's getting aerated, you get more flavors out.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to do with the aeration bit. Smell and taste.
बढ़िया है. Yeah. What is decanting? मेरा एक दोस्त है, वो कहता है यार आज तेरे को मैं वाइन चखाता हूँ. मैंने कई वाइन्स डिकैंट कर रखी हैं.
Same cheese. ये
अच्छा.
bottle को big decanter is a jug in a very simple way to put it. You can just take a patila, put wine in that.
Really?
You're basically just trying to give it more surface area. And
Okay.
same, you're trying to introduce more air and more oxygen. This wine, which is a Valpolicella, this region is near Verona. These wines look very light. They're very... if you look, you can see through the wine, right? It's not a very...
Right. It's
a
not
lot of-
maroonish. It's pretty red, transparent.
like if you were to hold paper, you would be able to see the text. It's a pretty see-through sort of a wine. Deceptively, looks very light, but it's very fruity, sour cherry sort of flavors, and it's a 12.5% alcohol wine, so it's pretty good.
Very excited for that.
But yeah, and this is a wine that the more you swirl, it will actually keep changing.
Oh, the flavor will keep changing?
Yeah, it'll keep opening up more and more.
Interesting. तो ऐसा क्यों होता है कि जब अब I have so many questions right there and then where I live in North India, हरियाणा के अंदर, people go to buy wine, ठीक है, and I know Jacob's Creek की white wine is where it tops it for most people, right? क्योंकि वो ठेकों पे ऑपरेट करते हैं. तो even I've seen people drink wine Jacob's Creek की और वो जाके slowly नहीं तेज से मारते रहते हैं. With red wine, it's a 900 to 1100 rupees की सूला of some kind.
Yeah.
At least for me, जो मेरे यहाँ पे गम्स के अंदर या फिर मुंह के अंदर वाले इस वाले पार्ट के अंदर चिपक जाती है.
Tannin.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
you just gave an elaborate history about this wine, जो और I'm sure कि बहुत कम लोग होंगे जो देख रहे होंगे that can even like even go to Italy, right? ऐसे में what is like a good barometer for assessing कि यार मैं कौन सी wine लूँ? Because मैंने whenever I've tried the basic Sulas, I don't think I'm getting the experience that the world of wine can provide to me.
So when I got into this space before I started Svami, I had an app on the alcohol space. And before that, that company was called Hipcask. But before we renamed it to Hipcask, it was actually called Indian Wine List. So the whole idea was that me and my co-founder that time, we were learning about wines and we wanted to know more about Indian wines. And there was no one repository where all wines were catalogued and kept or whatever. So we actually set out to build that back in the day, 8-9 years back. So at one point we were really championing Indian wines. And now that I've seen that space in so long, I've given up on Indian wines. As much as I hate to say it, there are only few wines that are really, really good. In fact, Sula has a few that are really good. Their source range is fantastic. Their source rosé, I will drink anytime. The source white, their rasa red is good. But every winery in India has maybe 14 to 18 wines, out of which only 3 or 4 are good. Rest are all right. I really won't really give it much thought. Having said that, today there are so many imported wines at really good prices. Delhi and Haryana are cheaper. In Bombay, you have, for example, this one brand called Legrand, Legrand. In fact, Sula imports that wine. Their wines are between 1,500 to 2,000 rupees. Fantastic value for money. My suggestion to anyone who wants to drink more red wines, buy Chilean wines, buy Argentine wines. Most of the time they'll taste good. When it comes to France, Italy, what you call, so this can be a whole podcast by itself, but wines are broadly divided into 2 categories, New World and Old World. So Old World will be Italy, Spain, all of these old producing nations. New World wines are countries that have been producing wine for a relatively new period. So Chile, Argentina, Australia, all of these come into New World wines. But if you look at most of the South American wines, great value for money. And most of them will taste good. And if you're buying a red wine in India, maybe buying a very old wine may not be the best idea. Because we don't know how the wines have been stored, kept, in how much heat, all of that. So my whole thing is that if you find a 1,500 to a 2,000 rupee red wine from a Chile or Argentina, just stick to that.
That's a very good point. Because मैंने भी बहुत ऐसी अजीब अजीब वाइन्स जाके सो टिपिकली हाउ इट हैपेंस इज unless you have a curator of some sorts or you go to a bar, एक typical जो ठेके वाला experience होता है ना, I've seen that Mumbai के अंदर here the liquor stores, the owners are a little bit more articulate because they're more used to seeing for the lack of a better word, taste वाले buyers who sort of are very discerning with what they want. Generally though, if you walk into a liquor store, I just look for the imported stuff, the new Indian gin stuff, and I'm like, ये bottle की packaging अच्छी लग रही है.
Yeah.
Will this price point give me a good premium taste? Can I try that? I usually go by that. I don't always read the labels, but the labels provide me a good backstory कि ये यूपी में बनी है, ये हरियाणा में बनी है, ये हम हिमाचल के पहाड़ों से आई है, whatever. But it stops at there. Like I'm still like only getting a partial experience. How do I like fully get into even understanding कि wine या ये कोई भी drink है आती कहाँ से, and like because it really makes a difference, when you're, for example, watching art and there's a little epitaph that says कि this is from that era, etc. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
It contextualizes what you're drinking. I think ये वाली चीज़ हम कैसे कर सकते हैं और
So India में especially, actually India में तो है ये problem, but globally also labels can be very misleading. Everyone tries to overplay on the label. So I won't put that much thought into the label, but just one more thing on the wine part. I think Indian wines never became cool. Indian gins are cool. Indian craft beers are cool. At least Maharashtra has a lot of craft beers. If you look at the Bangalore scene, right? Craft beers are cool. Indian mixers are cool. But Indian wines never became cool. If you were to buy a 2,000 rupee bottle of Indian wine, and you had an option of a 2,000 rupee Italian wine, and you had to take a wine to someone's house for dinner, you will pick the Italian wine.
Also, no one is delighted when you bring wine. They're just like,
My age group people are, but Indian wine, cool factor ही नहीं आया कभी भी.
culture नहीं बना उसके आसपास. Maybe it's because like it's
बहुत
old
मुश्किल
world
है वो
families.
culture, right? A lot of it would be this whole thing that still carries on, the wine and food pairing. Who cares? I've practically never really, as much as I've also preached it earlier, wine and food pairing, ye meat ke saath ye, who cares? I've never practically done it at home. It's like, let's open whatever's there.
Yeah.
We've never gone on Zomato and said, abhi is wine ke saath.
It's too much. I think it's
too much.
बहुत इस behavior के अंदर there's too much friction.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, people are very okay with like having a bunch of beers or whiskeys and then straight up diving into food.
Yeah.
जो वो करते हैं because they're not exactly interlinked with each other.
Yeah.
So I have another whiskey story which I thought would be interesting to bring up now. I've been trying whiskeys and I absolutely love एक bottle आती है Akashi Blue. It's this Japanese whiskey. And my friends, I'm not saying they're cretins or uncultured, but मैंने कहा यार ये try कराते हैं, ठीक है? और मैंने I sold it to them कि बहुत बढ़िया है. Then I made whiskey highballs, right? Because I love those. And मैंने देखा Japanese culture के अंदर भी they use whiskey highballs.
Yeah.
They were absolutely in love. 3 friends, we finished the entire bottle together. We were surprised. Number one, we were extremely coherent. And number two, there was a very pleasant buzz throughout. They're like, bro, हम यही पियेंगे, हम सब कुछ छोड़ रहे हैं, fuck all of the other like drinks, whatever. Contrast that with the Rampur Select, ठीक है? जो एक तरह की बड़ी heavy duty whiskey है.
Yeah.
I had no idea. With the price tag alone, I was like, I'm getting the most premium experience. I think it's made for like people who fight wars in Arctic tundras. Because we had that, we could not even finish a quarter of the bottle. We were like, bro, this is so heavy on the body.
Yeah.
How can we avoid experiences like this?
So I know exactly what you mean, but heavy and light, I think here is not the question. I'll try and explain more.
Okay.
When you have a highball, right, you're basically doing a whiskey soda. The beauty for me of a difference of what a whiskey soda our parent generation had or a highball we have today, we're a little more careful about proportions. Maybe we'll measure how much whiskey we're adding, how much soda we're adding, quality of soda, for example. Svami brand plug, we spent 4 months on just our soda recipe. Looks very simple, but took a while to figure out the soda profile. When you make a good quality highball, of course, it's refreshing, it's tasty. Mm-hmm. Even the natural sweetness from a whiskey can come out. There's so many times you have a nice highball and you're like, isme sugar hai kya, par nahi hai. But it is that residual sweetness of...
It's a good summer drink that you can have at night as well.
That opens up, right? Low in calorie, easy to have. Why is it easy to have? Now, I'm a person ki mere haath mein jo bhi hai na, I'll keep on sipping. You give me neat whiskey, I'll keep on sipping it. I have a habit ki if I have a glass in my hand, I'll keep sipping. Now, if I have a Rampur neat in my hand or with one ice, that in terms of alcohol content is so much more versus a highball. Highball I've diluted down, right, with a mixer. So my alcohol per sip it's much easier to do. I can drink 3 of those over a night, but I can't keep sipping on a Rampur for 3 hours. It'll fuck anyone up, right? So
even with the highball
is just diluted down. It's so much easier to do. That, let's say 45 ml of whiskey, you're having that in a larger quantity. You've diluted down, right? If you actually just look at how much alcohol you're having per sip, it's much lesser.
Right.
So you can keep sipping on it and you can keep enjoying it. But if you're having whiskey neat or you're having a single malt just with one ice, you can't just keep sipping on it again and again and again and again for that long. Having said that, there are occasions for both. I love a highball. I love a whiskey ginger ale sometimes. A lot of times I'll want to have it by itself, but depends on the occasion.
Follow-up question to that. If I do a highball, we can do that the entire night. कोई दिक्कत नहीं होती है. But why is it that like Japanese whiskey is just lighter?
I think Japanese everything is just great.
Yeah, but हम ज़्यादा पैसे क्यों पे कर रहे हैं? कम drunk होने के लिए.
So there are 2 things though. One is that every whiskey, look at what the alcohol percentage is, right? What is mentioned as ABV. Usually it would be around 40-42%.
Correct.
If you have a 50% whiskey, that means there's more alcohol content, which is great. But you can just use, let's say, 45 ml or 30 ml instead of a 60 ml. Japanese whiskeys are very, very rounded, light, delicate whiskeys. They've just gone with that profile. You won't find heavy, peaty, or whatever heavy oaked. Like I love bourbon, but bourbon has that little rough oakiness to it, which I love. But Japanese whiskeys just stay away from all of that. They'll stay away from peat. Just make nice, slightly sweet, slightly like if you smell a lot of Japanese whiskeys, you'll get the cereal sort of smell, like you're smelling Kellogg's. So they've gone with that profile. They've really perfected that profile. And some of them might even be at a 38% ABV. So that's why it's becoming easier to have it. Having said that, if you're making a highball, experiment with a 30 ml pour as well and see how it goes for you.
So 30 ml of whiskey plus
plus of whatever. Yeah. Like for me, my preferred pour for any drink is 45 ml, not 60 ml. I think it just works better for me. And if you look at a lot of cocktails as well, right? A lot of times the pours are 45, not 60. Well, India, it's a small, large sort of a thing.
Because we're a whiskey country.
But it's not always necessarily that. So you can always try a 45 ml pour. And most likely for me, in most cases, 45 ml works better. The other thing with Japanese whiskey though is they've now just started to introduce a lot of rules. Because Japanese whiskeys just got so popular and their prices kept going up, a lot of rubbish Japanese whiskeys also now started to come in. So to curb that, now I think this year or recently, fairly recently, whether it's this year or in the last 2 years, they've now started to put in rules like how Scotch or bourbon has rules that certain things have to be done to be called a bourbon or a Scotch or a Scotch single malt or whatever. They're introducing similar rules to be called Japanese whiskey because a lot of times there'll be bulk whiskey coming in from Scotland, spending some time in Japan, getting bottled in Japan and getting that Japan label.
Got it.
So people have also started to abuse that whole Japanese thing. So in the next few years, you'll see a stricter quality control as well.
Interesting. I did not know that. Because I thought it is from the seaside town of Japan. That's how they...
Yeah.
I thought all of that was the case. Another story comes to mind, and this is about coffee. I'm just going to keep going around beverages and coffees and then in and out.
Yeah.
Because aise mere ko mauka nahi milta, just nerd out and like just ask you specific questions.
Please. Coffee is first love.
Yeah?
Yeah. Coffee is what has built everything for me.
So, interesting story. I went to Subco Coffee finally. बहुत साल के बाद मैं फरीदाबाद के अंदर order करता रहता था. It would take the standard week to ship and come to me from their Pan India store. Loved it. It's a Subco Coffee is a store in Bandra, coffee store that you can check out. And usually ये वाली बात होती है. I started talking to the baristas there. कि यार अब हम ये कॉफ़ी लेके तो जा रहे हैं. Because we were like, who's gonna get like a cold brew? We have the Brew Tokai right next door. Who's gonna get a cold brew can for the multiple streams of guests every single time, right? And then see what their preferences are. Instead, just limit all options and be like, bro, we have cold brews. We can add milk to it.
Yeah.
Make it easier, right?
Yeah.
So we got the beans ground. And then हमने कुछ सवाल पूछे. उन्होंने कहा कि आपको cold brew बनानी है या छन्नी filter चाहिए. मैंने कहा छन्नी filter वाला काम हमारा होगा नहीं. हम cold brew ही serve करेंगे. And then I'm like, what if I want to still use this cold brew blend और मेरे को फटाफट बनाना हो if someone wants a hotter coffee and a fresher coffee. Now, typically, मैं क्या करता था? I had gone on Thrill List and a bunch of these websites trying to figure out how to make coffee with no equipment. मतलब पतीला लेके उसके अंदर I found this video. This guy is like, मेरे पापा ऐसी बनाते थे. This is a cowboy style coffee. He heats up the water for 4 minutes, puts the coffee in 4-5 chamuch, then he heats it up as well. The entire thing blooms up. In my case, it always spills over और सारा वो नुकसान हो जाता है. But nonetheless, and then you let it settle for 4 minutes, and that's how you serve it. But जो वो taste आता है ना, it feels quite rancid.
That sounds terrible, man.
Yeah.
This recipe sounds terrible.
So we were doing it for years. जो भी कोई आता है, just straight up that, and they're like, oh, this is great. And the only thing we could do is add ice to reduce the tension. Then he was like, आप एक काम करो, आप क्यों इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हो? आप straight up पानी को उबालो. Don't go above 90 degrees. Don't get it to boiling. And then just like you use tea, just put the coffee in. I'm like, this is so simple. I thought कुछ extravagant चीज़ करनी पड़ेगी.
आपने अगर आज वो रेसिपी बनाई होती और मुझे सर्व की होती, I would have walked out by now.
So glad we did not.
Yeah. See, there's so much with coffee, right? When I first got into coffee, I very distinctly remember, and my podcast, when would you think this would be live?
We would try to make it live around the release of your podcast.
So podcast release is on 28th and the first episode is on coffee.
Yeah.
And for me, coffee has had a very big impact on my life because my whole career path into beverages has started from coffee. Like coffee is what I've used to train my palate and, get to understand flavors more. I remember one very distinct moment. I was in Italy. I was 21. I was backpacking through Europe. I'd got some work there, so trip got sorted. Arrived at Venice train station at 4 o'clock. I was staying at some youth hostel a little outside, so had to wait
Lonely Planet की guide पढ़ के.
हाँ, वो Lonely Planet. And yeah, 100%. Full Lonely Planet I've done for like 5-6 years, around 2006 times. So waiting for public transport to open up, and around 5 o'clock, so I had to basically wait at the train station for a couple of hours, and 5 o'clock this coffee shop opens up. So I was like, क्या पियेंगे? Cappuccino पियेंगे, because वही सुना है अभी तक. So got a cappuccino and I was like, man, I've never had coffee like this before. Like, what happened here? Then I had 3 cappuccinos. Then I had a 4th cappuccino, and then I was really buzzed. But I'd never had coffee like that before. The only coffee and I was having it without sugar for the first time. And when you say coffee, if you close your eyes and think of coffee, most people would think a bitter black Nescafe sort of a coffee.
Yeah.
If I tell you have coffee without sugar, your mind will go there. That's what black coffee is. That coffee just changed my mind, that there was some sweetness, but on a very well balanced espresso based drink like a cappuccino, that milk sweetness is enough and the bitterness is very, very low. So the moment for me, I'm just sharing this moment, that was a very game changing moment in my life, and that really got me hooked to learn more about coffee. And I was like, Italian coffee, and then you realize Italy doesn't make coffee. Italy doesn't produce coffee beans.
Okay.
A lot of Asian and African countries produce coffee beans. Italy invented the espresso method, and they roast a lot of coffee, and your Lavazza and a lot of these brands come from Italy. But Italy is not a coffee producing nation. India is a very large coffee producing nation. So when I came back to India and did a lot more research, it's like, I'm going to Cafe Coffee today and buying beans. They had that one beans that used to come in a tin called Dark Forest, I think. Ground coffee. Got it home. Took hot water. Took a spoon of ground coffee. And I'm imagining कि ये mix हो जाएगा. क्योंकि अभी तक सिर्फ instant coffee पिया था. Didn't realize कि ground coffee
mix, yeah.
It'll keep staying. So I was like, oh, this is not as simple as what I thought. So that was my introduction into coffee. But the moment you think of coffee as a fruit, not as a bitter drink, ultimately you should be able to arrive at flavors of coffee, whether it's a fruity coffee, whether it's a chocolatey coffee, whether it's a earthy coffee. But the moment you start looking at coffee as a fruit, your entire perception towards that changes. Now, when it comes to brewing at home, forget espresso. You can never make espresso at home. Good espresso.
Machine चाहिए होती है उसके लिए हमेशा.
Espresso is a cafe thing. Unless you spent at least $1.5 lakh on equipment at home, you cannot make an espresso. If you bought an espresso machine or some other variant and you've got pods, it's a very subpar level of espresso. So espresso, have it a subco, have it a cafe. They do this in and out. They're set up for that. At home, do a cold brew. You get a Hario Mizudashi.
A what?
Hario is a Japanese brand that makes a lot of coffee equipment.
Acha.
So they have one thing called the Mizudashi. It's a plastic bottle with a chani in between.
Interesting.
Easiest way to make, Blue to Kai pe hoga, I think for 1,400 rupees or something. Easiest way to make cold brew at home. Super simple to clean. No jhanjat or anything. If you want cold brew, that's the easiest way to make cold brew at home. If you want to make hot coffee, my suggestion would be get a AeroPress. Little bit of learning curve, but super easy to use beyond that. And that's it. You've got great coffee at home. But forget espressos. You'll be having subpar coffee thinking it's great coffee. And again, I can say that because I've done that for quite a few years. Thinking my espresso game is so strong. But looking back, it really wasn't.
मेरे को ऐसा भी लगता है when you drink an espresso, you feel very productive. You feel like you're just
Grown up.
those are 50 ke human being ho. Because it's so small, it's so concentrated. And I used to have it all the time in college.
Yeah.
Until I found cold brews. And I was like, I'm missing out on so many things. इसी से मुझे एक बात याद आती है with coffee particularly, right? I did not know कि आप coffee और tonic को मिला सकते हो.
Oh yeah.
Then I'm not trying to do a Swami plug here, just by the way, guys. ये organically आया है. तो ना क्या हुआ? I have a friend and she posted a story on her Instagram and उसने उस पर लिखा coffee and tonic. और उसके 2 layer बने हुए थे. I was like, what the fuck is happening here, right? It was so weird to me because I haven't seen it happen before. So I realized 2 things. One, एक tonic का और भी use case है beyond gin. And second, I'm going to try this at home. So अब क्या था? Because I could not make an espresso, I looked it up on Google पे. First priority थी आप espresso लो और उसका tonic लगाओ. दूसरा था अगर वो नहीं है तो cold brew use करो. I have in the past tried to make cocktails with coffee cold brews. वो कॉफ़ी का आफ्टर टेस्ट कितनी भी अच्छी कॉफ़ी हो ना रह जाता है and it just disrupts the entire alcohol experience that I'm looking for. But in this particular case, अपना tonic लेके उसमें थोड़ी सी cold brew डाली. The aftertaste was just enough and it was around 3 a.m. when my friend and I were pulling an all-nighter. हमें बहुत सारा काम करना था. I'm like, this is just right.
Yeah. मेरे लिए cold brew works better as well.
Yeah?
I prefer cold brew to espresso in a tonic form. Works great, looks beautiful. So tonic is heavier than coffee, so coffee floats on top.
Yeah.
वो Facebook and Instagram पे memories it shows, right? So recently it showed about 8 years back. I had made a espresso with that machine I had at home, which was quite bad. I think it was a cafe coffee day machine, pod machine. So I made an espresso tonic with that and with Schweppes. And I was like, 8 साल में काफी improvement हो गई है अभी तक.
पर यार एक like I'm just gonna ask you this. अभी तो चलो दुनिया में बहुत सारे जिनके ब्रांड्स आ रहे हैं. अब तो like there are many people like you जो टेस्ट मेकर्स हैं क्यूरेट कर रहे हैं. You know, you're on Forbes 30 under 30. अब तो मतलब इस चीज़ की मान्यता आ रही है. But doing it alone back then, 2006 के अंदर, 2007 के अंदर, was there a community around you? Were you considered offbeat and eccentric for trying to be so heavily into gin and coffee and like you know?
So like I said, coffee was the beginning part, right? See, coffee you can have when you wake up. You can have 3 cups of coffee. Coffee is accessible. So for me, I used coffee to train my palate, to understand flavors. If I was in a European country, jahan I could buy an affordable bottle of wine every day, perhaps I could do it. India, I can't afford to buy wine on a regular basis to taste, to understand. So for me, coffee or for anyone, right? If you want to understand food flavors or sensory flavors, coffee is a great way to go. And in India, coffee is now accessible. It's a great time to be a coffee drinker in India. It's cheap, easy to do. You can do it on a daily basis. It can be your, like for me in office also, that afternoon coffee is a ritual.
Yeah.
You'll make a coffee, you'll get different beans, wo hote rehta hai. You learn so much on a daily basis. So coffee does that. So back in the day, there was a very good underground community in Bombay doing all of this shit. That's how I met Rahul, my co-founder at Svami. He used to homebrew beers, and there was such a big homebrewing scene. So everyone would meet up, सब अपने homebrew लाते थे bottles में, and you would be just having freshly brewed beers in Bombay. So this whole group, a lot of people have come from that sort of a space. One of my friends, Pratik, he runs a cheese company called Spotted Cow. Even he used to homebrew. And his house, एक room में सिर्फ cheese बन रहा होता था और beer बन रही होती थी. And so a lot of us have come from that sort of a background, maybe like 7 years back, 7 years back. And I don't think that time any one of us thought we'll professionally take this forward, but a lot of us have.
But it must have been difficult explaining what your interests are back then to normie civilians कि तुम ये क्या कर रहे हो भाई तुम simple और लोग की तरह normal दारू क्यों नहीं पीते तुम ये सब क्या कर रहे हो
Yeah, वो था थोड़ा snobbery type थोड़ा था वो कम हो गया अभी thankfully. If you just look back 6 years or 5 years, look at the cafe scene. I'm again coming back to coffee because coffee everyone can have. It's approachable. Yeah. There's no snobbery angle to it. If you look back 6 years or 7 years, there was no Blue Tokai to begin with.
Cafe coffee day for dates only.
Cafe coffee day. Otherwise, thoda more expensive was barista.
Yeah.
Then you're done. Now you look at the number of cafes you have. And that for me is such a good example of where we've come in the last, maybe 5 to 7 years in terms of beverages. Everything from, there was no homegrown, cool, hip alcohol brand. There was no Indian mixer. There was nothing. There was no coffee brand. And see what's happened in the last 5 to 7 years. The whole industry's just changed. So much more young blood in this space. Everyone's willing to help each other. I need some help, I can call up someone, vice versa, right? None of this was there. It was all the big, traditional, bigger players in this space.
Why do you think this has happened? मैं बहुत समय से as a layman, I'm trying to understand it. कि ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है कि I meet a lot of people across different age groups, and I always insinuate a seed in the conversation about अरे मैं ये वाली gin पी रहा हूँ, coffee पी रहा हूँ, and see what happens. Because I'm interested to know कि लोग क्या खरीद रहे हैं और क्यों खरीद रहे हैं. And what I found in my limited sample size based on non-professionals, just regular people, is a bunch of things. One is the FOMO of gin, right? There's a huge FOMO of gin that is happening right now because of the flavors and the branding, and उसके आसपास जो एक glamour, एक aesthetic चल रहा है, right? That has sort of declined for beer and whiskey like unanimously in younger age groups. The second, I think, is I just think people want better, but they haven't been told yet. And when someone like a smart, क्या कहते हैं, एक maven या researcher type का friend होता है ना, is willing to like be out there. When someone like that introduces that to them, some of them are willing to like feel okay with being judged and trying something new and going to a new cafe and be like, hey yaar, क्या आप मुझे Kalita cold brew दे सकते हो? I don't know what it means. Or there's all these random things that I don't understand. But a lot of us are now willing to go to the menu कि चलो try करते हैं, what's the worst that can happen. This wasn't the case before. And I'm just wondering, what have you seen from your perspective?
So Kalita cold brew mat mangna. There's no such thing as a Kalita cold brew. Kalita pour over.
Okay.
Hot.
Yes. Hot and cold. My bad. Yeah.
You can do an ice pour over on a Kalita anyways. We'll geek out on that another time. But I think there are two factors to this. One is that the product that a lot of Indian brands now making are great. If I look at a pouring gin like a greater than.
It's a pouring gin?
Like greater than's point is to become the pouring gin at a bar, right? They're at that sort of a price point for a bar. That they should be able to replace, let's say a Gordon's could be a pouring gin for a bar. They'll probably end up replacing that.
Okay. मतलब जो standard gin है.
House pour.
House pour.
Right?
Okay.
So GT is a great product in that sense, where you have like a house pour everyday sort of a brand. At a slightly more expensive price point, you have a Stranger & Sons, for example. And these are the two that came in the starting wave of gins, right? They were both fantastic products to begin with. Now, if both these products were like, let's say, a Blue Ribbon, and it really messed up with your head the next day,
yeah,
maybe you wouldn't have been so inclined towards trying more and more Indian gins. If I have 2 beers in Gurgaon that are locally made, I will not have a third or fourth beer in Gurgaon that's locally made ever. Because my first 2 sample size will be so bad that I may not even want to try anything.
You might also end up in a ditch, so
So, I think with gins, or my broader point here is that the quality of products that people are now making has become a lot better. And homegrown has also generally become cool. That was also not the case earlier. Like we are also finally getting off this whole whitewash thing ki foreign thing has to be better. I think that perception now has changed for so many things. Beverages becomes a part of it, but generally I think today we've come over the fact that an Indian brand can actually be much better in quality than an imported brand. And I think that mindset has also helped things quite a bit. That people will want to try more now because they're seeing good quality stuff, they're seeing cooler stuff. And why would you then not want to explore or be open to trying out more and more brands, variants, whatever?
I think it starts to get interesting. जब 25 plus का जो age group है ना, a lot of them who are entrepreneurs or who acquire purchasing power.
Yeah.
Right? I hang out with that group a lot. So उस group के अंदर it's very interesting to see if you can mold them to use that purchasing power for getting them into the finer pleasures of life.
Yeah.
They just explode. They're so happy about it.
Yeah.
अपने आप से आके like my friend was like, hey, let's try this Indri whiskey. And I was very surprised when I saw that whiskey. Japanese style, but Hindi में लिखा हुआ है. Great whiskey.
And damn good whiskey. Huh?
Great whiskey.
Really good whiskey. See, again, this is my point, right? If we were to buy an Indian whiskey 5 years back,
Yeah.
no matter what Indian whiskey you bought, wouldn't have been a very good whiskey by any standards. Today, whether I buy a Paul John Nirvana, which would be a more entry-level price point, still a great single malt. And if I buy Indri, fantastic. So this also comes back to my point that these products are great to begin with. If Indri at that price point was not tasting good and tomorrow gave you a hangover and all, maybe next time you won't recommend it. So I think the moment today you're discovering a new product, at least that's how at least I work, that if I try out a new product and I like it, I want all my friends to try it because I've discovered something new. And at least with drinking with a lot of people, you want to share.
Yeah.
I think sharing is a very important culture of drinking, right? When you discover something, when you discover a new cocktail, a new wine, you genuinely want to share it with friends. And I think that also helps quite a bit. And yeah, it's just good quality, good branding, good storytelling. Everything's coming together now. There are so many times where today I think a lot of Indian spirit brands, and I can at least say this about Svami, I think we'll do much cooler activations than a lot of well-established international brands in India. And again, we'll do that because it's our company. We've got a young team. We've got everyone who's super excited. And we are not going by one brand manual that's been handed over from a head office. And there's no legacy, right? That's the other part. We have no legacy to follow, which to me is a very exciting space to be in, right?
Yeah.
We're in a population as big as India, and we are still day zero to build a brand in this space. That doesn't happen often. Like it always blows my mind कि ये स्वामी के जैसा पहले किसी ने क्यों नहीं किया? How come Greater Than or Stranger से पहले किसी ने क्यों नहीं किया? So many people could have done it. No one did.
But इसके अंदर, do you think there's also the role of, say, there's this concept in social dynamics called the fickle 500, right? There's these people who influence opinions, and the theory is something like this. The fickle 500 goes to the top club. It becomes a top club because they go there. Then fickle 500 से नीचे जो tier B है वो आता है. Fickle 500 leaves because like, oh, नई जगह ढूंढनी पड़ेगी. Then B के बाद C आता है, and then D पे वो mainstream बन जाता है, right? तो do you think कि timing एक factor है? दूसरा, सही तरह के लोगों ने इसे back करा. Because I see a lot of this. So it's very interesting to me. And you know, now that we're sitting face to face, I can also ask you this. I see that a lot of these cool alcohol brands and even tonic brands, your coffee brands, they always pair up with lifestyle influencers whose aesthetics are very nice and all. Rarely do I see like I've seen like Anubhav Singh Bassi X some whiskey, but even then it's a traditional Johnny Walker, tried and tested safe. I don't see a lot of like deviations into like very cool massy people. It's all, मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि Instagram तक ही वो niche restrict हो जाता है. मैं गलत हो सकता हूँ.
I don't agree to that though. I think I have a very different view on influencers.
Please.
And having in whatever nano capacity myself, nano micro, whatever influencer I would have with my reach. I think for me that's a bubble. Instagram's a bubble. And this further becomes my view on D2C. I don't think in India you can build a brand on the basis of influencers and Instagram and stuff like that. Because what I see, and this is not even drinks across categories, right? Coffee is another example. Clothes are another example. Every brand will say the same thing. India's softest t-shirt. I don't know how many t-shirt ads I get that.
तो marketing speak है.
सब same marketing speak कर रहे हैं, right? आप किसी influencer को I say no to a lot of things that come to me because I was like, dude, I look stupid saying this. But people do anything, yaar. I know as a brand owner, I can a lot of times say that I've made this. If I was to say that I made this with Himalayan water or I made this with some glacial water from somewhere, people will say it. Right? Yeah. We're in that sort of thing where you can actually clearly tell someone what to say. They will not do any research of their own. They will also just say it. So to me, that thing becomes a very shallow thing. And the more and more brands you talk about as a promoted thing, as a consumer of content on Instagram, I don't think of a lot of influencers as authentic opinions. So then when I see them promoting something, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll still try it out, but I really won't trust it that much.
You think they become talking heads?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the other way to fix this? Because I always see, like, I'm just thinking it'd be very cool if someone who likes to drink gets like a whiskey company to like start sponsoring their videos and etc. And वो बैठ के पी रहे हैं. But I spoke to a lot of people who actually get जैसे कोई बीरा या कुछ और है वो events पे like उनको events पे अपनी drink
Correct.
डालना पसंद है.
हम भी वही करते हैं because sampling is key. We want people to taste our product. Now, whether they like the product or not, we can't know. 100% people will never like any one product. But people need to taste the product. That goes with any beverage brand, right? Right from a Red Bull to a coffee company to an alcohol company to us. Sampling is key. We actually don't spend much on Instagram at all. Instagram works great how it works, but we need... You go to a restaurant, you'll see my product. You'll see my product on a table. That's where it matters. You ask a waiter about my product, every waiter in every bar that serves us will know the Svami brand story. We actually do a training with every account of ours.
What do you tell them?
We have, so in the alcohol space, so a lot of our playbook, we've seen how alcohol brands work. So in the alcohol world, you have brand ambassadors. Now, these are not celebrity brand ambassadors. These are trade brand ambassadors.
Trade मतलब bartenders होंगे typically?
Yeah. So typically people who've been behind the bar or come from that space, but their job is to interact with bar teams on a daily basis. So if a new restaurant is now serving Svami, they will go explain every product to them, explain perhaps how to make some new drinks with them, perhaps work on a new menu, keep refreshing their teams, be in touch, community, build that whole community angle. We have 4 brand ambassadors today. Again, we have more brand ambassadors than a lot of international alcohol companies in the country. Soda Stranger, Soda is greater than. So we'll do a lot of these kind of things where I think for a product like ours, real influence comes into play. If I look at coffee, Sabco is a great example where they would have spent 0 on any influencer.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that is where a product really works, that if people on their own can start talking about it, that is great.
Nothing like
every time we've done not every time, we've very, very seldom done a paid influencer thing. Because we said, okay, we'll try it once. I think we've just tried it once and we're like, we're not doing this. We get so much genuine, people posting on Instagram. That's our community. Why will I let go of that and put something artificial in place of that? So I think for me, it's a lot more validation when people genuinely post about it than perhaps doing an influencer activity or stuff like that.
So how do you start this conversation? Because ये तो fight club वाली बात हो गई, right? It's like that thing where, I mean, people didn't even Chuck Palahniuk didn't even have to advertise that book so much, right? And then everyone was talking about it across the country, in the US, still are so many years afterward. So ऐसे, even with Sabco, now that I was there myself, मैंने भी कैसे discover करा, उसे ऐसे discover करा कि oh, cool coffee brands in India, like 3 or 4 years ago.
Sabco packed tha when you went?
Sabco was not packed.
Okay.
One of the few times Saturday morning?
Oh, okay, morning time, fair.
Yeah, Saturday morning, great time. But there were regulars there.
Yeah.
जो एक दूसरे से hello hi कर रहे थे और मैं किसी regular की seat पे बैठ गया था और ये भी बैठ गया था. So he was eyeing it with like that. But we decided to not budge.
Yeah.
And instead we were very loud and conducting our business there, which I also found was very interesting. Ki usually people were not loud. So I understood that here is a community of coffee lovers / laptop workers who just really enjoy the aesthetic of that. They really enjoy the modifications they make to their coffee. They enjoy that nook and bandra. Usko dhoondna bhi thoda aasan hai. It's not like out there where people can just be like, oh, ye sabko hai. Chalo, 4 log aa jao.
Yeah.
All of those things. But there are 2 things, right? There's one like, oh, do you go full massy, do you gatekeep it? I think the fact that we're still talking about it on a podcast means that they've done something right.
They've done everything right. I love how they've built their brand. And again, I'll repeat this. It's a brand completely built on product first.
Yeah.
And then great branding. Their branding is fantastic, but their product speaks for itself. And for me, that is also, at least for me, the Svami story.
Yeah.
Our product speaks for itself. And we worked a lot on the branding, packaging side of things. And I think that just works. We're in a space where, see, we have 12 products now. 5 of them are tonic waters, right? So a decent amount of our sales is still tonic based. We know gin is becoming popular, so tonic water growth will automatically happen, right? One basis of starting with tonic waters was that we knew gins are going to become more and more popular. We knew everyone who's starting a gin brand, so like, let's launch with tonics first. What was the other tonic available in India? Schweppes. For me, Schweppes personally is too sweet. I added to 10 gins. I can't make out one gin from the other. Now people are already spending more and are interested in gins more. They would naturally be looking at a better mixer for it. Let's just give them that. And for us, it's just been that journey. We've really not... I think we've spent far lesser on marketing than what a lot of people might think we have. But we've been very smart about marketing though. We've maximized every place. We've piggy banked on a lot of other brands where we could in a very, very good way. But influencer marketing and all, man, I don't know. To me, just a lot of it looks very fake.
Sorry, guys.
मैं भी करता हूँ.
You do it, but what I notice about you is yours always look in sync with what you represent, who you are.
Yeah, and I make it very clear कि the other day also something was coming up and I was like, ये 2 video देख लो, ऐसा ही frame होगा, because their thing came with 10 instructions. I like, I'm not scripting this. It'll be completely my view. And yeah, people will look through you. Yeah, you'll do it how many times?
Yeah.
Ultimately, people will look through you and they'll know that you're just reading a script out.
Yeah. But I see that a lot of people follow you. At least I follow your account. मेरे को जानना होता है ना कि और नया क्या चल रहा है इस दुनिया के अंदर. I just look at whatever you're doing and I have a fair understanding. Do you feel like, oh wow, I must always be updating myself, or are you naturally this person?
I'm naturally that person. I'm very curious. And I think that's also the theme of my podcast. It's all about exploring subcultures. Yeah. Some that I'm already into myself, some that I really want to learn more about myself. For example, affordable art is something that I really know nothing about. I'm on that journey of learning. I think for me, if I get interested by something, then I'll just deep dive into it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And again, we're in an information age where everything's on YouTube. I think most of my adult education is thanks to YouTube. Right from coffee to whatever, everything is there. So I get obsessive about something. All my friends say Aneesh has phases in life. But if I get into something, I will really get deep into something. And on the flip side, I find it really funny कि Instagram पे आप same चीज़ 10 बार बोल दो and you'll be perceived as an expert of that.
That's how you build authority.
Which is so funny, right?
Yeah.
But to me, if I get curious about something, I will genuinely follow through and through as much as I can to learn more.
Yeah, my friend Raj from StoHQ, it's an online alternate MBA platform. What they do is they help people like get online MBAs from real world case stories and whatnot. Yes, please. ऐसा लग रहा था वो पेंटिंग नहीं होती. It's like man is reaching out to God. I don't know what it's called. But he was saying कि आप interns hire कर सकते हो Twitter पे thought leadership करने के लिए. So if you want to pivot and like start saying I'm a fintech influencer now, apparently you can get an intern who will just copy like.
But this is my whole point. Yeah, and brands also see this is again I find this a very fascinating cycle with brands and PR. PR will pick anyone, yeah. I see this. I see this in the beverage space also. Just because that person has posted about cocktails for 1 year, suddenly you're a cocktail expert.
Yeah.
And if you actually just got someone as a consultant who has some sort of authority to just vet your key opinion leaders ka list or whatever, anyone will be able to see through their actual knowledge. But it's so easy to fake it on social media.
What about the people who generally wanted to get into it and they're trying their best? वो ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं that they start? I mean, what I'm trying to ask is sort of a difficult question because it's hard to do it in isolation, right? It's hard to be the only person in your life who's interested in that. How can people find communities like this, and especially in non-metropolitan cities? क्या ये हो सकता है?
I think it's all about communities. So much of my learning. And touch wood, I really think I've been very lucky to be at the right place at the right time, and I've met a lot of people who've been very helpful in educating me. Give you an example of cigars. Everyone perceives that cigars is this one snobby whatever thing, right? If I say cigar club, people are thinking leather chairs and everyone's in formal clothes discussing stock markets.
I remember Boston Legal, that show.
Stuff like that. I've learned everything about cigars from a couple of people, including one gentleman called Rocky Patel, who's a cigar maker. His brand is called Rocky Patel. Look up any cigar list, he'll be on that cigar list. Coolest, most down-to-earth, humble guy. And I think the best way to learn is to just say, I don't know anything and I want to learn. If you walk into a subco, or you, for example, Instagram DM'd a Svami account asking for something, or you went to, let's say, an art gallery and said, listen, I don't know anything about art, you'll be surprised how helpful people can be. So there is no point trying to show that I know this when you don't know it. If you actually go and say, listen, I really want to learn about it, I think most people that I have met in life will be more than happy to really handhold you and show you along.
Hold my hand on cigars then, because I was at India Art Fair on the sidelines of it. A gentleman I know, he was smoking a cigar. I was like, ye badhiya lag raha hai. Haven't had a cigar realistically since I was in college. And then he played a trick on me. He's like, isko andar lena hota hai. And I was like, yeah, ye mazak kar raha hai and whatnot. I wasn't sure. So he held the cigar to my mouth, took a long drag and inhaled it. And मेरी आंखों से आंसू आने लगे and I coughed really hard. And then he started laughing. I'm like, मेरे साथ कौन हो गया है? How could I have avoided that faux pas? मैं कैसे अपने आप को बचा सकता था?
ये दिल्ली में ही होता है, ये बॉम्बे में नहीं होता. Bombay mein, if you ask a cigar smoker, they'll be very nice to you.
Yeah.
So there was there's still a cigar club in Bombay run by someone I know. So when I wanted to get into cigars, this friend of ours told me that, listen, there are most of the people that are very seasoned cigar smokers, so perhaps we'll make our own club. I'm like, chalo, we'll make our own club. What's the problem here? We just had one rule, two rules actually. One is that you have to be smoking a cigar. Whether you're coming with your girlfriend, boyfriend, mother, father, we don't care. Everyone has to be smoking. Otherwise, please don't bring a guest. So your guest also has to smoke. And no formal clothes. So we don't want a scene again where people are in a suit or whatever. There's not that vibe only. But it came to a point where if someone wanted to come and they're like, listen, we're really new. Where to get a cigar? I'm like, dude, just come. We'll get you a cigar. But come, let's see how it goes. So I think Bombay, at least that was very helpful. I don't know who the cigar guy was who messed around with you in Delhi. But generally, people are helpful. But coming back to your question, right? How do you, whatever you want to learn about today, again, I'm just taking topics that I've been curious about. Art is right now one of them, right? Bombay at least has a couple of these art walks every first or second Thursday of every month. Super approachable. I'd gone with a friend of mine who I've recorded one of the episodes with for Affordable Art. She took me to this gallery inside Taj Mahal. Now, first you're entering a 5-star hotel, which is intimidating.
Agra mein?
No, Taj Mahal Hotel. Taj Mahal Palace at Colaba. So, firstly, we're entering a gallery inside a 5-star hotel. Inside, perhaps one of the most iconic 5-star hotels in the country. So entering a hotel can be intimidating for a lot of people. It's been for me for a very long time, not anymore though. Then you're entering a gallery and then you're seeing a M.F. Hussain. Now we were very clear कि मुझे कुछ नहीं मालूम. M.F. Hussain का मैंने नाम सुना है and Raza का नाम सुना है. But we don't know anything more than that. And everyone there was super friendly and nice. We thought we might get judged. Ki, like who are these plebs, riffraffs walking around. It was very cool. And I think a lot of times in your mind it is that, what will people think? But I think if you want to learn about something, most people who are passionate about it will be more than happy to help you out in whatever way possible.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure there are communities everywhere for this kind of stuff.
With the cigar club, more questions on that. So cigar peete kaise?
A cigar is... so I've never smoked cigarettes. I don't understand cigarettes. Never gotten into that. So this friend of mine who I had started the cigar club with a long time back, this guy from New Zealand, he was smoking a cigar and I was like, yeah, you smell बहुत interesting. So that's how I got interested. She's like, yeah, smoke. I was like, I can't take smoke in. He's like, but you don't have to. So the thing with a cigar, it's exactly like wine actually. Firstly, cigar is, they're just tobacco leaves rolled together. There's no paper or anything else in it.
जो बाहर की covering है वो भी tobacco leaf है.
Yeah. So essentially there are three parts to a cigar. There's a filler, which is your inside-most leaf, couple of usually 2 or 3 leaves rolled together. Then there's another leaf called a binder that just, binds everything and you get your structure. And then you have your wrapper. Your wrapper is your most aesthetically good-looking leaf. So they're one leaf over the other. That's how you get a cigar. That's how that cigar ash also stays for longer, because the leaf has veins and structure and also it's not just paper that's falling away. Where did the cigar come from? Like wine. How long was it aged? Is it aged for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? All of those factors come into play. Did the cigar plant grow in sun or it grew in shade? So cigar is another rabbit hole like wine, where if you actually get into it, there's so much to learn. And again, all of these things, shocking sort of things, are all sensory pleasures at the end of the day, right? At least that's how I see it. Whether it's coffee, whiskey, cigars, whatever you want to call it. They're all sensory pleasures, and cigar is just one of them. And if you really get into it, it's super enjoyable and super geeky. You'll just geek out on it. Next thing you know, you'll be reading 10 articles. You'll be figuring out Cuba mein kya farak hai, Nicaragua mein kya farak hai, all of that stuff.
But oral fixation hoti hai usse jaise. For I've smoked cigarettes. With cigarettes, it's like you.
There are some cigars that'll get you so high.
Yeah.
It's nicotine, right? And nicotine gets absorbed through your gums, tongue, everything. So cigars now, depending, you can have a very light cigar for breakfast, which could last you, let's say, 15-20 minutes.
The buzz of nicotine.
No, the smoking time.
Okay. 15 से 20 मिनट लगते हैं cigar पीने में.
नहीं, ये बहुत छोटी cigar है जो बहुत light cigar है.
I'm assuming the bigger cigars take an hour or so.
Yeah, so there are some cigars I have that will take an hour, 15-20 minutes. But that's a full scene then. That you're not smoking in a rush. That you are chilling with, smoking aram se. A lot of them can get you really high.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But like high as in what? मैंने दोखा पिया है. Dokha I've smoked thanks to buddies from Dubai when I was in Boston.
Yeah.
I'd always go and make friends with Middle Eastern people and use our like brown intersection to get cigarettes, as a dokha वगैरह. Then I saw this guy who was wearing, decked out in all these branded clothes. I had just submitted my exam. I was free and I had underslept. कुछ करने को नहीं था. I was like, let me get a pick me up for home. मैं क्या ले सकता हूँ? So he's like, brother, come try this. So, and I remember when I smoked dokha, I've lost limb mobility.
Oh, damn.
In my legs. And my vision turned greenish. But it was the weirdest, funnest time I ever had on just nicotine.
Yeah, so it's similar. It's a nicotine high at the end of the day. Man, it's so much fun. We should have been smoking. Next time we'll smoke.
Done it.
You can take... So this is really geeking out on it, but a cigar size is called a vitola. Traditionally the name. So you can have the same cigar in different sizes. So what is changing is, I told you, right, there are 3 components to a cigar: wrapper, binder, filler, binder, wrapper. Now the same cigar, let's say, is 50 mm thick and 5 inches long. Now the same cigar is also available in 7 inches length. This sounds wrong, but...
Just like dicks, guys.
But let's say 40 mm, it's thinner.
Yeah.
Now your ratio of those 3 leaves is changed.
Okay.
Blend is the same, but now the ratio of the blend is changed. So now you can smoke the same cigar, overall profile, but there's a slight change as per the structure of it. So yeah, there's a lot of geeking out on
कोई बात
cigars.
नहीं, अब तो ये हम इसी बारे में बात करने आए हैं. मेरे को ऐसे बार से थोड़ी करना है.
And,
एक जिन की बात कर ली, कॉफी की बात कर ली, सिगार की बात कर ली.
And this whole thing again, there are so many comparisons to wine. You know, a lot of people I'll meet, older people I would say, are like, यार मैं सिर्फ French wine पीता हूँ, मैं सिर्फ Bordeaux पीता हूँ, with a lot of pride. Like, and I can't understand that. If you like wine, why will you limit yourself to one particular thing? Same with cigars. A lot of people who smoked. See, when I got into cigars, मुझे मालूम ही नहीं था Cuba बनाता है या और कौन बनाता है, right? So I had no fixation about Cuba.
It's also films, no? Films always show Cuban cigars as the most prestigious.
But for me, I never started with Cuban cigars. I started with other cigars. Nicaragua, Honduras, multiple other places make it. So when I smoked a Cuban for the first time, I was like, okay, great. But what I smoked earlier was equally good. So this whole thing that Cuban cigars are the best, it's like saying French wine is the best. So debatable, right? How do you decide what is best? So subjective.
Yeah. My gym trainer also says dumbbells are best, but I choose to disagree.
What is best in the gym then? Barbell? What are you going for?
I do a bunch of things, but no, he always emphasizes. I'm like, yeah, should I do a push or pull movement? He's like, a dumbbell best hai. That's just like personal pride coming in. जो cigar का nail cut होता है उसे क्या बोलते हैं?
Cigar cutter है अभी bag में. Cigar cutter. Yeah. I've lost too many of those at airports.
Yeah.
But now I can just cut a cigar with my nails and. But yeah, this cigar cutter, simple thing.
Yeah. Well, another question to that, because we haven't answered the elemental question of cigars. Do you smoke them and inhale them like you do cigarettes?
You do not inhale cigars. It's a mouth smoke.
So, like that.
Take a few drags. You want decent amount of smoke. Keep it in your mouth for let's say 5 seconds.
Don't get it down the throat, ever.
No. It's in your mouth for let's say about 5 seconds. Slowly let it out. And the idea is to slowly smoke a cigar because you don't want a very hot smoke. You want a colder smoke. Hotter the smoke, like if you keep just smoking, what do you call, like you can see the flame, you can see it red, what do you call a cherry. You ideally don't want to see that. So that's why I hate when I light up cigars and a few of my friends will want to smoke it all. Sounds like, bro, if you all keep smoking it, it's never going to be a colder smoke. So never rush into a cigar, take your time with a cigar. Also, you cannot start a cigar, leave it and say, ye main abhi kal smoke karunga. Because what the flavors are coming from oils. The leaves are very oily of a well-kept cigar. The moment you've lit up a cigar, those oils are heating up anyways. So if you started a cigar, you can leave it for half an hour or something and come back to it. But you can't say कि मैं कल या परसों या अगले हफ्ते continue करूँगा. Then it'll be gone. It'll be smoking cardboard by then.
What's the fascination with smoking cigars? Like, it's just, is it a conversation? I know I do a lot of things, substances, as backgrounds to my conversations and hanging out with friends, right? But with cigars, इतनी देर तक फिर बातचीत भी इतनी देर तक होती है, 1.5-2 घंटे.
मैं तो यार, I'll smoke a cigar by myself. I'm very happy doing that.
And you listen to music in the background?
Yeah. Small joys of life. यही तो है सब. Or what are we working for?
Yeah.
I also, like, not the topic we were discussing, but I think a lot of these hobbies, right, also comes down to, or whatever your passions in life, also comes down to self-love, right? If you can't enjoy it, like as much as I want to share cigars and my experiences with everyone else, if I'm by myself on a Sunday evening, I'm happy to get a drink and smoke a cigar and listen to some music. It's great.
Yeah.
Nothing takes away from that.
Talking about music, man. When I was in the US, I had a vinyl record thing going, a LP60. Okay. LP60 Audio Technica. Yeah, just, generic consumers, so don't judge me.
Yeah.
I just got it off Amazon as a student. I thought it was the cheapest.
Yeah.
Went into a record store. Record store guys like, by the way, हम गए भी वहाँ कैसे? He had an old gramophone outside the record store. Me and my friend are walking through Boston, faded. I'm like, ये क्या हो रहा है? ये बढ़िया संगीत कहाँ से आ रहा है? Go down. He's like, I'm gonna help you pick records. Picks us 4 or 5 random records. One of those, एक पूरी anthology है that just has vocals. People are just speaking to each other. पूरा play है. And it's so trippy. You can listen to the entire thing. Side A, side B. The other is Duke Ellington. Third is a Frank Zappa album. We geeked out. We're like, ये तो बहुत बढ़िया है.
Yeah.
Now the cool thing is, because I'm from a generation that we saw वो torrent वाला music देखा हमने pen drives use करी, सब कुछ करा, हमने CDs burn करी, ये सब करा हमने. But अब क्या हो गया ना, with streaming apps, unless you play a deep house or a techno set, because I think why deep house and techno sets exist is not because of the lull of background music. They exist because someone is so fidgety that they can't stop changing songs every 3 minutes, right? Sometimes even midway. So sets resolve that. But the other thing that helps with that is records, because you can't just be like,
You
bro.
can't. Yeah.
It really solves the listening problem. But मैं बड़ा surprised that now people like you, I see you follow Digging in India on Instagram. He does a bunch of things. This is sort of re-picking up. और मेरे को ऐसा लगता है parallels हैं. Gin, street culture, vinyls. It's all sort of coming together. Then I realized India में बहुत सारे record stores हैं, and you have a massive collection yourself. It's just very, very cool. I never thought we'd get here.
So the thing with audio is, and perhaps if I was, so before all of this, I used to be a photographer and as a profession. And I think if it wasn't photography, audio engineering would have been my profession.
Yeah.
Because I was very fascinated by audio from a very early age. And audio is perhaps one industry or one product that with technology has deteriorated. Now, in terms of convenience, it's become really good. But in the aim to make everything smaller, your audio quality has been significantly sacrificed. Ultimately, audio is sound waves, they're physical waves. There's only so much physics you can do by... You're making everything smaller, right? If you look at vintage audio, today vintage audio sells at such a premium. Why is that? So my current system, my amplifier is a 1978 Japanese amplifier by a brand called Luxman.
You bought it from someone?
Yeah.
Like it's a second-hand amplifier?
It's a second-hand, yeah.
Huh.
It's some 40-year-old, 44-year-old amp that I have. Of course, it sounds pristine. It's built like a tank. The manual has every part mentioned in case you need to repair anything. But everything is built big because that's how you needed to do it. The priority wasn't it being more compact or it being more
पीछे
small.
Bose का portable speaker लगा है as we speak.
Correct. Correct. So, see now, this is great for what it does, but it's not phenomenal audio quality. It's perceived like it blows my mind when someone buys a Bose home theater for like 3 lakhs. I was like, fuck, you could have just bought, I could have suggested a 10 times better sounding home theater or a system for you for like $1.5 lakh. The only thing is it won't be small speakers, there'll be bigger speakers, but they'll sound phenomenal. Vinyl is the same thing, right? Firstly, coming from a generation where, of course, we've also seen all of that, right? Torrents, burning CDs. CD burn करते थे, 1 घंटा लगता था, कोई और app खोल दिया, so it would crash and stuff like that would happen, right? But records, vinyl, to me it blows my mind that I'm listening to my father's vinyls, which must be now, again, some 30-40 years old, but it's tactile. You cannot keep, of course you can manually change tracks, but practically you'll never do it. You're listening to sound that was recorded and like put on that physical vinyl really, really well. They put a lot of work in quality of vinyls back in the day. So your audio quality is good to start with. And that's not deteriorating as long as your vinyls are kept properly over decades or decades.
उसपे उंगली नहीं लगानी चाहिए ना?
उंगली नहीं लगानी चाहिए.
I'm sorry if this is sounding elemental because I made a lot of mistakes when I had vinyls. I would just, not treat them right. Then my roommate scolded me कि तू क्या कर रहा है? जिंदगी खराब कर रहा है अपनी. I was like, what?
So vinyls today, vinyls are not cheap. It's not a cheap hobby, right? It's an expensive hobby to get into. But you're also listening to music how it was intended by an artist to listen to music. Like, why was song A this and song B this and song C this and not in some other order, right? You're also going by how they've planned it out.
No shuffle.
No shuffle. Dude, something like Peter Cat. I have Bismillah on vinyl and I've heard Peter Cat live multiple times. The last time they were performing in Bombay, I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just play the vinyl at home. It's as good as listening to them live, which it really is. But the amount of work they've put in, even on the artwork on the vinyl. Remember how you would have those CDs with booklets inside or cassettes with booklets inside?
Yeah.
Now, when you see all of that, it's such a big scale, right? Because the vinyl is physically bigger. Even stuff like that, seeing that artwork big and not seeing it on your phone screen as the square on a Spotify or an Apple Music.
Yeah.
Somewhere those kind of things are also their feelings, right? It of course is. I'm not saying that it's making your audio quality better, but it is making your experience better.
उस पे इतनी सारी एक्स्ट्रा ब्लर्ब वाली बातें लिखी होती हैं. There's a vinyl called Long John Silver by Jefferson Airplane, and the vinyl cover can be made a cigar roller.
See, there you go.
I had it. I couldn't roll it. Like I was saying, Snoop Dogg ने एक book लिखी थी when he was Snoop Lion for a while, which is a Rastafari phase. But the cover of the book, उस पे strike anywhere match use कर सकते थे आप to light up a J or something because that's Snoop Dogg. But it's again, I think in the era of influencer को एक goodie bag भेज दो, we've kind of, and like online activations, we've lost that. We've lost what, like the intention of something like a record जिसके अंदर specific information है, all the credits and all. If you see on Spotify, like like the credits and all, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Most people get left out.
Yeah.
उसके अंदर ये भी लिखा होता है, ये cover इसने बनाया है, ये गाने का तीसरा second इस बंदे ने record करा था, all of that.
A lot of times a cover art credit will be a very prominent credit on a vinyl that most of the times I've seen, right?
Right.
Oh, you're right. Spotify may will get lost. No one's going to credits at all. But two things, right? One is, if I just talk about pure audio quality wise, having a vinyl player is one part, but you also need to have a system to match it. Otherwise, there's no point. Case in point that if you bought a vinyl player and plugged it into a small Bose speaker, there's going to be no difference. You just use Spotify for that matter. Then you're not going to really hear much difference. So you also need a little more capable system. On one of my podcast episodes, we discuss all of this, and I recorded that with Jude, who runs the Revolver Club. I think they're by far the most prominent vinyl and vinyl player sellers in the country. So we discuss a lot of this, but it's never been a better time. And this term called audiophile is a little intimidating term, but it's never been a better time to be an audio enthusiast, I would say, in the country than now, because you have so many affordable options now of building a good system at home. And you can build it in time, right? You don't have to buy everything the same day. The turntable, the vinyl player that I've got is an Austrian brand called Project. The beauty about that is that the stylus, the actual needle, I can upgrade that whenever I want to a better quality one. So if after 2 years I've realized that to me I've reached the potential of this, now I want to upgrade. It's one part I can upgrade. This brand, and again, this is what a lot of higher end brands do. They're very clear that all our products will have spare parts available for the next 10 years. So, a lot of these kind of audio file or these kind of brands, a lot of this is also built to last. It's not that, you're expecting it 3 years, ho gaya abhi, now you'll chuck and get a new one.
Right.
So I think with vinyl music, a lot of that comes into play, and it's one of the most therapeutic things you can do.
100%.
And again, that for me is what's the point of earning money and and it's so underrated because everyone listens to music, right? But it's just sad that most people are not really listening to everything that an artist, an engineer, everyone has put in. And my whole point is of this whole hobby is that I'll give you a personal example. Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb. When I got that on vinyl, I've heard that song for I don't know how many, 20 years or something, right? Know every single whatever riff, this, that. And when I heard that on vinyl, I was like, I actually end up calling a few people saying, dude, I've never heard Comfortably Numb like this. And I was like, wait, am I a little high? Am I like just overdoing this a little bit? So I heard it again in the morning. And it was again the same experience. And And that is what audiophile, that whole hobby is about. That if you discover a little more detail in a song, it just blows your mind. The same thing happens in a Daft Punk album. A lot of people have asked me, why do you have a Daft Punk album? What's the point of having a digital album on vinyl? And Daft Punk is actually an analog album to begin with. They spend a lot of money on production of that album. You hear that on vinyl versus Spotify or Apple Music, it's a different thing completely.
I remember vinyl के अंदर usually मेरे पास ये Bose वाला speaker, I've had it for over like 6 or 7 years now. It's got a dimples because it's been bashed all across tracks वगैरह पे हर जगह ठुका पिटा है. It's been a trusty companion, but the only time I switched over from it is जब मैंने वो vinyl player लिया, I was told from guides online that you have to buy speakers जिसके पीछे red और white color की wire लगती है.
Yeah.
जो वो live wire होती है ना.
RCA.
हाँ RCA, I think RCA लगती है. और उसके हर speaker के पीछे, so one speaker had all the setup from where you could control the bass, treble and volume. And वहाँ पे एक switch था that said it's on or off now. The other was just the speaker. They looked exactly the same. I forget the company. But when I first bought it, I'm like, मैं गलती कर रहा हूँ क्या? क्योंकि it was something I'd seen my parents use and or like my grandparents use. The way it was made. Modern sleek speakers अच्छे लगते हैं. They're good for like your background and YouTube videos and whatnot.
Yeah. And great for travel and all. This is great.
Yeah.
Something like this is great for travel. But for everyday listening, a brand that comes to mind is Edifier.
Edifier. India में मिलता है?
Yeah. Amazon पे मिलता है. Edifier makes speakers starting at, I think a lot of their speakers that are around the 10,000-12,000 rupee point.
Yeah.
They will sound better than most Bose or whatever you'll pick up. So there are a lot of brands like that. And again, it's not about a more expensive audio product nowhere means a better sounding audio product. Bose has done a fantastic time. We'll never get sponsored by Bose, but Bose has done a fantastic job with marketing, with building the brand. They've built some very phenomenal products in their early days as well. Their bigger speakers, their noise cancellation headphones are just phenomenal. But if I was to personally build a home speaker, I would never ever think of Bose. And even for a regular speaker setup at home, you buy a brand like Edifier that has speakers going up to, let's say, 25,000, 30,000. They will sound much better.
Yeah, Aneesh, but जैसे Bose तो एक हो गया, but then there are so many other alternatives. आप किसी भी German गाड़ी के अंदर देखो, they use Herman Kardon, एक नाम बहुत ज़्यादा सुना जाता है. One of my relatives, he said, I'm not gonna get this fancy Bose system. He got something called an Onkyo. I'm forgetting a few other names, but there's these usually two Italian first names तरह के ऐसे बहुत सारी companies हैं. They sound fancy because they're not Bose, so you find that they're Bose alternatives. You end up using them, but I'm not sure if they are any particularly better. कुछ
I don't think so. See, a lot of these they're all consumer brands, right? They're not counted as. By the way, in an audiophile community, Bose will be laughed upon. If you showed up at one of these audiophile meets and said, I have a Bose system, you can't say it. That's not cool to say at all. So a lot of these kind of brands are very consumer brands. They're built in a certain way to sound. They'll have more treble, more bass. Mid would be just recessed like a U-shaped curve that you would apply. They are basically made to sound good on as much music as you can throw at it.
What does that mean?
On a good sounding system, if a record is not recorded properly, that also shows. Sometimes the system can be too good.
Right.
Sometimes your system can also be too good. Just to geek out a little bit more, whenever you plug in a headphone jack into a digital device, right? There is one component called the digital to analog converter, DAC. If your phone has a headphone jack, it has it. Now, since Apple removed the headphone jack, you get that lightning plug.
And then you got the aux inside it.
So that lightning plug has a DAC chip inside it. Your laptop has it. Anytime a digital signal is going into an analog audio
ये तो
thing.
कर रहे हैं with this audio interface.
There's a DAC, right?
Yeah.
There's a digital to analog converter. I recently bought a digital to analog converter, which is the same size as that.
Yeah. This is a Steinberg UR44C.
So I have a Denner Frips Aries 2 DAC, which weighs about 3 kgs, that size. It's doing the literal job as that what 800 rupee dongle of Apple is doing.
But why did you get the entire thing?
Because it sounds 1000 times better. To the point, when I hooked it up and I was listening to this one track, Nine Crimes by Damien Rice, I could hear this noise in the background in their recording. I was like, fuck. Now I can hear their flaw. So sometimes you can also have a thing that can be so resolving that you can also start seeing mistakes in a recording. But a consumer product will be more tuned to be as forgiving to a lot of tracks, right? You're streaming low quality music off an app.
Yeah.
You do that on my system, it'll sound like junk. When I play high res versus low res, there's a very big difference.
Sorry, what is high res and low res?
So today, at least on Apple in India, you get lossless music in a better quality. I personally use this app called Tidal, which is a
Jay-Z
streaming
app, na?
Yeah. So I use that and I pay like $20 a month for that subscription.
Why? Because they ensure high quality lossless streaming.
Their quality is just incredibly good.
Compared to Spotify or Apple Music, like miles apart?
So Apple Music now is very close to it.
Huh.
For me, there's still a difference. And the setup that I have, Tidal has a system of automatically connecting with my system now. So it's not going via my phone. It's called Tidal Connect. Spotify also has it, not in
Spotify
India.
Connect, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Spotify in India does not have high-res now. Till now. I don't know why they haven't launched it yet.
So अगर मैं Tidal पे switch करूँगा अभी, all the songs I listen to on Spotify, which is my main sort of audio player, I'm likely to be blown away.
If you have a system that can make use of it.
Say I have a Marshall portable speaker.
No, don't do it. No point.
No.
No point.
Even on a phone?
No, unless you have really good headphones. See, that's another way to get into audio in a very easy way. Go to Headphone Zone. They're the coolest guys to help you buy a headphone. If you're based in Bombay, they have a fantastic place where you can try pretty much any headphone that they have. Headphones can be a lot more affordable. There are some headphones for 3,000-4,000 rupees that are fantastic. This is term called Chi-Fi, Chinese fidelity Chi-Fi. There are so many brands that it's like, how can a product priced like that sound so damn good? Now, if you listen to a good quality headphone, you can see a difference there. But that's the other thing. Like I was saying, it's not about price. You can drop 20 to 30,000 rupees on a Bose headphone, or you can get a much better brand that may not be a very well-known consumer brand, but it'll sound way better. Also, Tidal is a pain to use because Tidal is not in India.
So the APK stuff.
Yeah, and the iPhone, I have to somehow get another Apple account of another country. It's a mess.
But I can see the pains you go through for listening to great music.
But it blew my mind. When I could hear that background noise in a Damien Rice song, I was like, okay, now the system is good, that means.
But so, I remember Beats by Dr. Dre, Skull Candy. In the 2010s, late 2000s, these were the brands ruling India. Beats was the iPhone of headphones.
Yeah.
Skull Candy was a college student's favorite choice because of its खूबसूरत वो aesthetic camo prints वगैरह आ गए है ना, all of that. I don't see them anywhere now.
I think now Boat has killed it. I think Boat is the Indian brand ruling everything. And then there'll be a lot of these other brands that will never be consumer brands, right? Till you perhaps, again, I'll plug in Headphone Zone. They're fabulous, fabulous team to talk to for. I think everyone who works there is a pro with headphones and earphones now.
Yeah.
I think they would be a great team to recommend you a product at pretty much any price.
Are they online?
They're online. They're online. They don't have, apart from that one Bombay store where you can go try anything. They'll have headphones from earphones. I'm loosely interchanging the terms. They'll have products from, let's say, 3,000 rupees to 5 lakhs.
5 lakh के हेडफोन.
Yeah. 3 lakh के तो हैं कम से कम. And you can go there, try everything.
उसमें पीछे बैंड मेंबर का रोना भी सुनाई दे जाता है क्या?
So, to me, spending that much on a headphone is not for me back in the day because my influencer capabilities. Sennheiser had given me this headphone called the Sennheiser Momentum 2s. They are just incredible. I've never had to switch from that ever.
It'd be such a pain in the ass if you decide to move, no? With all the stuff that you have in your life.
Don't have that much also. I'm good. I can move.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I think it's also come to a point where you rather have lesser stuff but really high quality stuff. And I think I'm also becoming conscious of buying everything that I know is built to last. For example, this turntable, right? When you hear the brand say that we'll provide you spare parts for 10 years at least. That amp, the fact that 44 years it's working flawlessly, right? Gives you a lot of confidence. But then it also comes with a repair manual with every possible, what to replace, like if required. So I think it's also about investing in things that are built to last and consumer appliance sort of a grading.
Kabhi, have you ever played music through a guitar amp?
Nahin.
Oh, it's so much fun.
That'll be
so
fun
scary.
though. That'll be fun though.
Yeah, it's super fun because I realized कि speakers के अंदर ना maybe there are limiters. In a guitar amp, there are no limiters. You can go as loud as possible to the point that you can shake up the entire building. My friend had a Black Star amp that I borrowed and I plugged his guitar in. And मेरे को volume number 2 पे बहुत तेज आवाज़ सुनाई दे रही थी. But it's just like, it shows you the capability of audio. It's insane. मैं अब सही में, now that I think about it, I'm suddenly detesting all these Boses and Marshalls in my life because maybe I'm missing out on a better experience.
See, Marshall is a great branding story again. And just so you know, Marshall is not the same Marshall, right? This company acquired the rights to build Marshall. But it's not the old Marshall that's actually making these products. I think it's a Finnish company or whatever company that's bought the rights to produce these products. They're doing a great job with their packaging, and for what it is, they sound great. That the biggest model, that Woburn or whatever it's called.
Woodburn. I have a Kilburn, so I'm assuming that would be a Woodburn, huh?
I think Woburn or whatever it's called. There are so many times that at a small event, you can just use that. And that is great for that purpose. But will I use it at home for everyday serious listening? No, I won't.
I was reading one of your interviews and you said people assume कि ये पूरे दिन cigarette पीता है, cigar पीता है और दारू पीता है.
Correct.
है ना?
हाँ.
मैं भी ये assume कर रहा था.
I think what you see on Instagram is like 1%. The rest is all firefighting and Excel sheets and team calls and all of that stuff. वो लोग देखते नहीं हैं. But
because alcohol, gin brands, tonic brands, they're supposed to be a little glamorous, no? हाँ, cool.
Cool लगता है कि yeah, but
सब लोगों को podcast भी बहुत cool लगता है.
Podcast बहुत tough है. Now that I'm also doing it, hats off.
How's your experience so far? You already batch recorded episodes.
Yeah, we batched quite a few episodes. I think the funnest part was so IVM is producing it and they're like, Aneesh, show more emotion. I was like, this is other emotion. नहीं आएगा, but it's tough, man. Like, hats off to you and hats off to everyone who's got a podcast. It's not easy.
What have been some of your challenges, like doing the podcast?
I think just being expressive. Rest is all fine. Rest has been nice.
But I think you can compensate with, I don't think expression is necessary. I think some people are over the top, like I am a little bit sometimes. You can, if you have technical acumen, it doesn't have to be. I think मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि a lot of people assume that to be the host of a show, you have to have a larger than life personality, but that's not the case.
I don't think so.
You look at Tim Ferriss.
Yeah,
and like even Joe Rogan comedian, I'm just going to use the biggest examples.
Dude, even Joe Rogan, I've been seeing so much of his stuff. He's got a very straight face. He's not, so many times he's just talking with an absolute straight face and that's it.
Yeah. I think also it just gets tiring after a while to put on a front.
Yeah.
To the point where you're just straight up interested in.
Yeah.
I also think you develop a kind of casual indifference, which is something maybe you'll experience as you do more and more of these regularly. to the point where you will have deep empathy for whatever the other person is saying. I'm not saying कि I'm not listening to you, but you learn a way to really listen without having it affect you so much that you can't move. Because sometimes people will, like, your podcast is subcultures, right? Sometimes people will come and like share stories after the podcast that are just straight up built for a psychologist, not built for me at all. And it's challenging, but I mean, it's cool. It's I'm just wondering, why did you decide to do a podcast?
So my idea of the podcast is very simple, that a lot of things I will, let's say, pick any topic, pick vinyl or music, right? I'm putting out a lot of these kind of things on my Instagram stories.
Yeah.
That are going to go after some time. It's not like I'm writing a blog. So there's no permanent documentation of this, which I think can be done very easily. Because I am sharing a lot of information that might be useful for, let's say, I'm happy even if 5 people get influenced by it, right?
That's it's like white paper episodes. Are you trying to do something like that?
No, I think it's more about, like, today's our conversation, right? If I gave you 10 tips on how to improve your audio system on an Instagram, I don't know what reach that would have. It wouldn't be on any search engine, nothing, right? So I'd rather talk about things that I'm passionate about. And again, 2 things. Either I'm into or I want to learn myself. Then rather do it in a way that I can share it with more people.
You know, podcasts have the highest form of unaided recall. You're more likely to remember something you listened to on a podcast than something you watched on a video. Even less with text, even less with images.
Yeah.
So that's very incredible. And ये Nielsen ने statistics निकाले थे around 2018 के अंदर. And they use Joe Rogan Experience as an example. It is the show with the highest unaided recall. You may not remember the timestamp, but you can remember something like, हाँ, Joe Rogan ने बताया था ना कि turmeric खाने से ऐसे होता है. Like, it's so weird because it's happening so deep into the conversation. It's not like at the first minute. So it's a lot of influence. I also think when people speak one-on-one, a lot of the editing goes away. जो writing के अंदर होता है ना, you have the backspace option. There's a lot of burnt tongue, ums and ahs and all of that. Are there awkward pauses when you were filming the episodes?
I think it took me a few episodes to really get the hang of it, to start to own it, right? That, dude, it's my podcast. I can ask or say whatever I want. So I think that's starting to happen now. And I was like, I wish I recorded 8 dummy episodes before actually recording the episodes. But to me, it's also fun that I think there'll be a pretty big progression from my episode 1 to episode 10. But I think that's also a natural thing, and I rather let it be that way.
It's a hero's journey.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's how it is.
But the other problem is people do these seasonal things where they spend 6 months and they want each episode to be perfect. As a result, they just don't go anywhere.
So that's my other thing. I will rather launch this imperfectly. Because this is not my profession, right? Of course, I will put out good quality stuff.
Yeah.
But I'd rather start and keep learning and improving than say, nahi, till I have this absolutely. And I'm very happy with what we've recorded so far. The episodes range from coffee, audiophiles, sneakers, to relationships, to affordable art, to cheese. So lots
Love
of
cheese.
Stuff. Yeah. Cheese episode is fun. The cheese episode is called, I think, First Steps of Being a Cheese Influencer or something like that.
Man, when I was in the US, I was trying this whole thing where I would eat omelets, cheese, avocados, salmon, बस days on end just eating that. And मुझे लगता था कि चीज़ का मतलब होता है कि जो अमूल का वो ग्लेस पेपर के टाइप का स्क्वायर आता है ना, that. फिर मैं अमेरिकन सुपरमार्केट में गया, गोडा मिल रही है, पेपर जैक मिल रही, क्या मिल रही है. My roommate got me into cheese and I'm like, bro, this is crazy. पूरे दिन बैठ के चीज़ खाओ.
Yeah, so good.
It's so good. Cheese is so good.
So this cheese episode I recorded with this guy called Addy, who he was also part of this whole underground Bombay food scene. Physicist, he set up a cheese company in Canada and hopefully coming back to India to set up a restaurant as well. He made me do something that I've not done till now, and I really thought I'm a decent cheese person. Like, I've experienced some amount of cheese and have some knowledge. It's made me smell every cheese we were having. And I never really smelled the Parmesan. I've eaten a lot of Parmesan and never really smelled it. And that experience made a lot of difference. He's like, this is earthy, this is this. I was like, yeah, man, it is, but I've never smelt it before. It was fun episode. But yeah, cheese. So one episode was on cheese. Then I was like, if I'm doing an episode on cheese, let me do an episode on pizza. So then I've also recorded one episode only on pizza. That why are all pizzas not great?
Yeah.
How is one pizza so much better than another one? So we geek out on a lot of dough and stuff like that on that episode.
Yeah, I think now if you go on Zomato, a lot of companies are offering the whole wheat package, gluten-free crust, etc.
Yeah.
I just think if you're gluten-free, you should just be gluten-free, not have pizza. Because that is an abomination. बहुत ही बुरा होता है.
Yeah.
It's just, it feels like you're having एक चीज़ का क्रैकर है ना, क्रैकर होता है ना, क्रैकर के ऊपर वो डाल रखा है.
But it's so fascinating, right? So, but coming out to cheese, you were talking about that square cheese, right?
Yeah.
I think my mind was blown when I first had that, and I think the first one I had in India was Britannia. But
Britannia also the blue color का packet आता था.
But growing up, so my father was in the army. We would get these round tins of Verka cheese.
Verka क्या is it?
Verka was a brand. I'm not sure if it's still there or not, but in the army canteen and all, we would get that brand. I think it was from Punjab. Full Punjabi, like Gurmukhi lettering or whatever. वो tin में आता था. Toast के ऊपर you would do all of that, make a toasty and have, and that was great. That was what pizza was. There was no other pizza. There was no other cheese in sight. And yeah, when you start to eat other cheese, you'll realize, there are more things to life.
मलाई चीनी के toast खाएं कभी?
I love, yeah.
Bro, it's such a guilty pleasure. I haven't had those in months.
But that best one is at Comorin.
What's a Comorin?
Comorin is in Gurgaon, in Horizon 1. Comorin is a restaurant by the Indian accent guys. मेरे हिसाब से it's the both in terms of food and the beverage menu coming together, perhaps the best in the country, or at least the best in Delhi.
Yeah. They serve malai chini ke toast?
They have a malai chini toast too. It's so good.
That's crazy.
That is really good.
Yeah, it's what I like about a lot of these new Indian brands is that they use homemade recipes and they luxurify it. And basically
बहुत अच्छा किया है. वो पता नहीं कैसे किया. You can just have one each of that.
और white bread के अंदर ही, not like some health.
No health no.
हाँ, क्योंकि उन चीज़ों में हेल्थ नहीं कर सकते हैं, उसमें हेल्थ वेल्थ क्या कर सकते हैं. सो दैट वाज माय मेन, लाइक आई वुड कम होम खेल वेल के, मेरी मम्मा हमेशा वो बनाती थी मलाई चीनी के टोस्ट. इट्स माय फॉन्डेस्ट मेमोरीज. इट्स सो टेस्टी. और वो अब बोलते हैं ना ब्रो, प्रोसेस शुगर नहीं खाना चाहिए, बट वो जो शुगर के छोटे क्यूब्स होते हैं उसके अंदर क्रंची. हाँ,
we would have this ghee shakkar paratha. That's what we would have, more than the chini toast.
तो घी शक्कर उसके ऊपर डाला हुआ है या उसके अंदर मेल्ट करा हुआ है?
Paratha hot, shakkar, ghee and malai, and then rolled up.
Oh, malai भी साथ में?
Thodi malai भी साथ में. Dude, that was epic.
So what my dad does is he still does it. हम लोग कहते हैं उन्हें करने के लिए कभी भी. He uses his hands to make this thing called malida. और malida is basically a mash. जैसे पनीर की भुर्जी बन जाती है ना. तो he takes गुड़, takes ghee, takes a paratha. Then he uses his incredibly powerful Hulk-like hands and mashes them all together one by one until it becomes a ball. And then we have that. It's great.
That sounds good.
Yeah. It's a very good thing. But I just, one of the greatest things about food or drink is that sometimes they stand at the exact opposition of who you are as an adult and your lifestyle choices and your naturally compounding self-improvement your childhood memory wala khana stands exact opposition uske andar.
True. But also that's required, right? Like, as much as you will take care of your health, right? And at least in my profession, right? It's very easy to keep eating out, keep drinking. It's a very easy thing, right? Once you're in the hospitality space. So keeping fit and all of that is extremely paramount. And at least I and a bunch of people I know, we've continuously put an effort to do that.
Yeah.
But guilty pleasures of food have to happen. Otherwise, again, what's the point?
Right.
Why are we doing all of this?
We should then just go to forests and meditate all the time.
If once in a while you can't smash a ghee shakkar paratha or have 2 of those malai chini toasted Comorin, then...
Yaar, I know a lot of my Instagram folks are now seeing the whole ultra human का वो sensor वगैरह आ गया है. हाँ, so I was like, great time to ask you that because you talk about that all the time. I have two questions. Number one, I saw someone else and they put a needle on it. It has a needle, right?
So it's got a very thin filament that goes inside 1 or 2 layers of your skin. It's not really a needle. The first time I was putting it, I thought it was a needle.
So why did you put it here in the first place? Why did you need a glucose tracker? So
I'll tell you why I did it. I did it because I saw someone else do it and I have that fascination. If I can get more data of my body, I'll 100% do it.
Yeah.
So I've done that with heart rate and all of that, right? As many more data points I can get, I'm happy with that. So I first got it. And first I was like, how do I even know this is accurate? So my first week, 2 weeks, I would keep checking this. Then I would be pricking my finger because I got that regular glucose thing to check also. And I just kept doing that. And I was like, this is a little absurd because I'm just puncturing all my fingers twice a day. So started doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
But then I also started following on Instagram. Her account is called Glucose Goddess. She talks a lot about glucose monitoring, and I don't think I don't see anyone using Ultra Human for 6 months continuously, for example. I think it's a tool. You'll do it for a month or 2 months, generally to understand, make any changes, and perhaps you'll do it again after a few months.
Right.
I don't think it's a 365 day sort of a thing anyone's practically going to do. But what this can perhaps do, or how at least I'm using it, is to see what affects my body what way. For example, ghee is great, right? Poha for me is really bad.
Spikes up glucose.
मैं पोहा खाता हूँ, मेरा glucose, forget the spike, it spikes and it stays spiked for like an hour. My worst spike is poha, by far. Rest, everything is pretty manageable. So I'm using this just to understand what is affecting how, what alcohol is affecting how.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that Ultra Human is for weight loss. No one is saying it's for weight loss. It's giving you more data. You're free to do whatever you want to do with it. But it throws up interesting data. Like it can tell you that, and it keeps prompting you that what did you do here that this spike or this decline
happened? So you're forced to like write in the details.
Yeah. So which is what you need to do really to understand, right? What's happening. So after you do that regularly, like it started throwing out that, this is a good time for you to work out.
Okay.
Now, stuff like that is interesting.
But does it fluctuate from day to day, or is it
It gives it on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And then it tries to predict depending on your pattern. If tomorrow this tech can be an implant, I'll 100% get an implant.
ये wearable tech बोलते हैं ना, so this is literally wearable tech.
This is wearable tech.
Yeah.
But it blows my mind that, so black coffee, so I do a lot of intermittent fasting. Black coffee is not supposed to be spiking your blood sugar, right? Because there's nothing in it. Twice it spiked my blood sugar. I was like, ye kaise ho raha hai? Which I would have never thought.
Right.
Then I end up reading a lot because of this, that how is this happening? Then I was like, this must be inaccurate. Then I'm puncturing my fingers again, but it was accurate. So because I had so much coffee, I was getting a little jittery, which was increasing my cortisol, which was then increasing my insulin response.
Holy shit.
Now that I've never thought of, because technically black coffee should not spike insulin, but it did.
I think that's what happens to us when we're working in the studio in the mornings. We just feel like shit after like 4 cups of coffee.
So stuff like this is something I've got because of this. Otherwise I wouldn't have realized. Then what else was there? There were a couple of these kind of points that have come out where I was like, okay, this is interesting. I wouldn't have thought about this. But this Glucose Goddess lady, she will show you the same meal that you could have in different ways. Like if you ate this first, let's say you ate that avocado before you ate something else, same lunch, same meal, but your insulin spike would be different. So stuff like that to me is very interesting to understand.
Is it uncomfortable to wear?
No, it's not.
No? Feels like a part of you.
Yeah, it's pretty whatever. What hurts is when you remove the tape, the hair fucking pulls.
Oh, acha.
That's what hurts. The application doesn't hurt.
I'm very interested to get it because I've been inclined to see कि क्या होता है. I've been using a lot of. I also intermittently fast whenever I can. I follow all the right biohackers. Even if they decide कि यार हम लोग सबको one size fits all advice नहीं देंगे, even then I feel like I react differently to different things, right? Anything with bread just immediately makes me fall asleep. No matter मैं कुछ भी ले रहा हूँ, मैं कुछ भी करूँ, I'm just like I'm dead. I can't do anything, right? On the other hand, just umpteen amounts of chicken, instead of making me feel like, oh, I'm satiated, I get more stressed. It's very weird. Like, but again, मेरे को लगता है कि the problem with incomplete biohacking is you don't track it.
Yeah.
लोग biohack करते हैं कि bro मैं IF कर रहा हूँ, but tracking के लिए like the most they will do is like do a journal कि मैं इतने बजे ये खाया वो खाया. But I think without the intersection of technology that actually shows you results, you're just sort of like playing in the dark and using anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, and I want as many, like what you said, right? I want as many data points to collate and figure things out, because ultimately we're putting in so much effort, right?
Yeah.
If you're putting in effort and it's not making sense, what's the point, right? Or the other thing I was talking about, what I discovered through Ultra Human, again, these are things that you are supposed to know, right? Stress will cause this. Stress will cause that. But twice, I've been on a very stressful call and I can actually see my glucose go up. I was like, that is mind-blowing that I have a device that can actually live show how I'm actually reacting to a phone call.
That's crazy. If you came in here today and I was like, bro, Aneesh, man, I'm a little stressed right now. If I had the thing on, I could see it.
But again, stress does things to your body. But when I see it like this, now I'm a lot more relaxed about a lot of things. I'm like, fuck it, I can see I don't want this.
You know, I never thought biohacking would just slowly sneak its way into our country like it has. मेरे को तो बाहर ही लोग दिखते थे कुछ करते हुए कि मैं NAD ले रहा हूँ, अब मैं ये ले रहा हूँ, अब मैं stem cell करा रहा हूँ. I'm now sitting in front of like infrared lights. The best export we had, rather import we had, was like, bro, cold showers, hello.
Yeah.
You know, go to the flotation tanks, right? Just again, more sensory deprivation stuff or like mental strength stuff. Not tracking of that kind. Because like India ki fitness movement ke andar bhi, we've got like stuff like Healthify Me. We're a country obsessed with like losing weight.
Yeah, losing weight.
Yeah.
Again, it's not about health, it's about weight loss.
Yeah. Weight loss is the biggest game.
Yeah.
It's the biggest industry. It's never about longevity.
Yeah.
या आप अगर एक नॉलेज वर्क करो, आप सोचते ही नहीं हो, आप 4 रोटियां खा के काम करने जा रहे हो. हाउ डू यू एक्सपेक्ट टू मेक लाइक शार्प डिसीजंस व्हेन यू आर लाइक फूड के एंड से कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड. सो हैव यू another thing, so the coffee made you jittery and spiked up your cortisol. Do you know other people who are using this, and did you compare results कि तुम ये खाते हो तुम्हारे साथ ऐसा होता है, मैं खाता हूँ मेरे साथ ऐसा होता है?
नहीं. So one of my friends, he and I, we've compared our results. We both had gone to this one Gujarati thali place together.
Yeah.
So,
just so you could use this.
So we both had tons and tons of amras. So both of our things spiked beautifully for some time and came back. Then we were together one of the evenings doing cocktails at home. And we drank a lot of Negronis, which is basically gin, Campari, vermouth. And that did not spike. I think we had 6 cocktails each that night. Nothing. Perfectly fine.
कुछ sugar content भी नहीं था उसके अंदर या था?
So vermouth और Campari में थोड़ा sugar content तो होगा. But it wasn't that much. But if I have a whiskey sour, so each whiskey sour will be almost like 15 ml of sugar or slightly more. That really makes a difference to my spike. But a Negroni did not.
That's interesting.
Now that's also interesting, right?
So you can tweak what drinks you have.
Yeah, and I love sour drinks. But for every sour drink, the usual recipe will be 60 ml of spirit. So let's say it's a whiskey sour, 60 ml of spirit. 30 ml lime juice, 30 ml sugar syrup, right? You have 3 of those, you just had 90 ml of sugar syrup.
Yeah. So what happens when the glucose crashes? Like fatigue?
That I'm still figuring out. There are only some times that I've felt a crash and then I've looked at the app and seen that happen. A lot of times, so I'm still learning that crash bit. I'm still trying to understand that a lot better.
So if you did not have this intuitively, what would you do? Because, for example, I can tell when something I've eaten or something I've had as a drink is adversely affecting my biology. वो पता लग जाता है मेरे को. Like I find that if I drink a lot of beers, I get very doozy and lazy. If I drink gins, I'm perfect podcaster, best podcaster ever, right? If I drink whiskeys, I'm tend to get violent after the third or fourth. ऐसे नहीं कि मैं मार रहा हूँ, but it's just that. And I'm not sure if it's the temperament of the drink or if it's just what it does to my body.
So for me, drinks-wise, it's all been fine though. But let's say I have butter chicken, I want to pass out.
Yeah.
And now I can see because it's spice and then it crashes, and that crash is just like...
It's a really bad crash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you're trying to go to sleep and you really can't do anything, melatonin or magnesium biglycinate, ये सब कुछ काम नहीं कर रहा है. I never knew until now, intuitively I've always ordered butter chicken and butter naan because usko khate hi, it's just such a heavy load. You're just like, I just want to die.
Yeah.
You know, and that.
So to me, it's a lot of just getting more data and seeing what works. And everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
What might work for you may not work for me, and vice versa. You also see how a lot of brands will mislead you with stuff, right? For example, there's no added sugar is the biggest farce.
Hey man, Dabur honey ka purity guaranteed.
You will say no added sugar, but there'll be 10 other things. Very simply, if a product tastes sweet, there is something in it that's making it sweet, right? You might change the terms.
Maltodextrose, emulsifiers.
Fructose, something, right? I've seen this at so many cafes that you will do this smoothie bowl without sugar, but you've put those cranberries on top.
Frozen cranberries, right?
Those dried sweet cranberries, right?
Freezer में डालते हैं.
उसमें है ना sugar? उसमें कितना sugar है? Right? So a lot of this health washing, as I would call it, also a good way to see how a lot of those kind of things affect you, because everything is now being made to look healthy, even though it just may not be.
That's true. I mean, look at the fact that we were eating Nutrilla and was Smileys.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff if you think about the way we've been. Complan, Bonvita.
Man. Dude, if you actually look at any of these and you actually see the protein content in that whole box, it's nothing. And how as kids we were like...
This is the only thing worth drinking. I think हमारा placebo ने हमें बहुत आगे चला लिया.
Correct. I agree.
If this was not placebo, we'd... Like, I wonder, like, if someone has kids now, knowing what they know, would they fall for that branding, you know, or for that advice?
So I don't know which brand of thing this was. I looked it up once, long time back. I was like, wait, so my whey protein scoop that has some 25 or 27 grams of protein actually has more protein than the entire tin of this other product.
Yeah.
That we were drinking, thinking it's some great healthy thing.
Yeah. But I think that's what happens with information. You start to pick out a lot of the bullshit of legacy brands and start thinking for yourself कि मुझे क्या खाना है, क्या पीना है, कैसे रहना है. And मुझे पता नहीं ऐसे क्यों लगता है, it's a slow movement, but a lot of knowledge workers, anyone who uses their brain to, you know, come up with creative solutions, needs to think about nutrition and what goes in their body more than ever. Gone are the days where you could be like an obese copywriter, just, you know, smoking cigarettes and just pumping out money. वो वाला समय खत्म हो गया. I generally think if people fix their nutrition, they have a competitive advantage over everyone else.
Yeah. Just your brain space, right? Your thinking.
Yeah, fantastic. Bro, it's been great having you in Dostcast.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, we could go on for like alcohol and stuff, but I kind of really like this.
Yeah.
ये जिनविन की बातें तो आप लोग देख ही सकते हैं इनके Instagram पे, and like, you know, it's Svami Drinks. So when does your podcast come out? What is it called? Where can people find it?
So podcast launches on 28th June. It'll be on all platforms. It's called Aneesh Thing, and it's all about niche things. So on all the platforms, and it'll go out every Tuesday.
Nice. Why Tuesday?
IVM picked Tuesday, so Tuesday it is.
Yeah, we also pick Tuesdays and Fridays.
Why?
Because Flagrant was doing it.
Okay, so there you go.
It's a bunch of things. A couple of more questions about that. Because you mentioned you're an audiophile, right? मैं ये जानना चाह रहा हूँ. You can fix your audio because you're Aneesh, right? So what about the guest? How did you combat that? Because not everyone has like a good mic.
मैं सब episode studio में record कर रहा हूँ.
अच्छा, okay.
And one episode was remote, where Bhavisha on the sneaker episode was in Bangalore, and she was sent to some studio as well.
So she recorded direct from a studio?
Yeah.
Or was it done like one after the other?
No. She was in, I think IVM has a studio in Bangalore as well. So
Okay.
she was in the studio. My whole thing is, whoever I'm getting on the show, the audio setup has to be proper. Otherwise, no point.
Yeah. People don't realize that they're like, great video, बहुत बढ़िया कर लेंगे. It's actually the audio. If you ask consumers, they're okay with watching a 240p video.
Yeah, that's what. Even on a phone, right? How much
Yeah.
of video detailing are you going to see? Audio is so important.
Yeah.
A lot of times, even for Instagram Reels, I'll parallelly record the audio on the Yeti.
Your audio is like mint clear. मैं वही तो कह रहा था, कोई ऐसा नहीं करता अपना Yeti बाहर टेबल पे लेके आ जाता है करने के लिए. People usually use the phone mic, but that extra effort makes all the difference.
Yeah, I really think so too. And as a content consumer, I really appreciate when people do that. And I think that's what I would also always want to do.
Fantastic. So people can follow you on Aneesh Bhasin. That's the Instagram name.
Aneesh B, ANEESH.
Yeah, Aneesh B.
for
And
Bombay.
Svami Drinks on Instagram. A bunch of other places. Thank you for the wine.
Well, thank you. We still have some left.
Fantastic. So, ठीक है, we'll see you guys Tuesday and Friday whenever the next one comes out. Don't forget to subscribe. And that's it. Bye-bye.